Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Make It Stick, our STEM skills study series. This is volume 4, and this video is about study strategies for content. So, as always, I am Emma Barnaby, your CNMS Student Success Coach, coming to you from the CNMS Advising Office of Student Success. And a little bit about this series. Make It Stick is a workshop series designed to help STEM students create study plans that work. Each video will go over one strategy for learning material. Try them out. See how you might be able to add some of these strategies into your own study toolkit. You can also make a one-on-one appointment with me, Student Success Coach Emma Barnaby, to discuss how you might implement these skills. And if you're looking for my appointment link, it is in the description box for this video. All right, so one of the best strategies for learning new content or studying content is to start with questions and read for answers. So, starting with questions helps prime your brain to be looking for the important things in a textbook or whatever source you're using. So, let's just imagine that we're all using textbooks for now. We might be using, slides from your class, for instance, but let's say we're using a textbook. So at the beginning of each chapter of most textbooks, there's a section called Learning Outcomes or Learning Objectives. And it gives you some idea of what you should be learning in the chapter and what you should come out knowing from the end when you finish the chapter. So it's to guide your reading. And if you're going to go in with an idea of what you need with to come out with, you can kind of tailor the reading to those needs. So again, a lot of people find that textbook reading or slide review can be kind of boring, and that's kind of normal. Not it's not we're used to living in a world where we're getting media all the time. Our senses are completely inundated with things on the internet and on social media, and so actually sitting down to read can be something that is not always easy to focus on. So sometimes just like having something in your brain where you're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be learning, and I need to be learning this while looking for this while I read, can really just kind of help you stay focused while you're doing your reading assignments or studying. Okay, so another important idea here is calibration. And calibration is when you kind of figure out where you are. So the idea is to figure out what you do know and what you don't know. And this is going to help you kind of guide your studying going forward. Like let's say you have a test coming up. So this this idea helps you maximize your learning so that you don't focus too much on what you already know. So it's important to take a practice test that's going to cover everything just to kind of check in. But if there's material that you already know really well or maybe even have mastered, you don't need to be focusing on that material while in the next, let's say, 3 days you have to study for a test. So, if you need help trying to figure out what you don't know, a really good way to do that is to actually take a practice test. So, you can, for instance, take a practice test the night before a test to kind of just make sure that you're fine and do a practice test. But it actually helps if you're given a practice test like 4 days in advance, it kind of helps to do it right away because this is going to help you figure out what you actually need to work on in the next few days while you study. So, again, if you are just like having a little bit of trouble with this, you can ask for help from an outside source like your professor or an advisor, TA, maybe a success coach like me, and they can kind of help you figure out how to calibrate yourself there. All right. The next strategy is elaboration. So let's say you're having trouble understanding a concept. Oftentimes, scientific concepts, mathematical concepts, etc., they're pretty complicated. So this might be kind of hard to do if you're studying math, for instance, where a derivative in calculus might not have an obvious real life example. But in biology, chemistry, especially physics, for instance, if you try and apply that concept to a real life scenario, even just in your imagination, it can sometimes help you to understand it a little bit better. So you can check in your textbook for applications because they might appear as figures or graphs. Um, or yeah, just like by figures, I mean little pictures. But that can sometimes just really help explain why something's important, what a process actually does, those kinds of things. So a lot of people in high school had kind of just natural inclination to skip over the graphs and the figures, but those are actually some of the most important things in science classes in college. So don't skip the figures because they might help you understand how a concept works. in real life and why it's important to learn it. Okay, also mnemonic devices. Mnemonic devices are like shortcuts to memorization by creating these little memory devices. So, for instance, you can match up the first letters to spell a new word or a phrase, or relate the new fact to something already created in your memory because it'll stick better. And you can be creative. You can make up a song or something. And so, one example of a mnemonic device is um, when I was a kid and I was trying to remember the order of the 9 planets. Now, there's technically only 8 planets, but let's just say for example, just for purposes of an example here, that there are 9 planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. A lot of my friends remembered that by saying, "My very excellent mother just served us 9 pizzas," which is a funny phrase that'll stick in your mother or in your mind because it's funny. And those can kind of help you match up the letters of the first letters of each planet to make you remember the order. A lot of people I grew up with remembered the um, helping verbs by a little song to remember them, or a lot of people remember the quadratic equation from algebra by singing x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. See, I can remember that. I learned that 15 years ago and I still remember it. It'll stick in your long-term memory if you've got a song. So be creative. Find ways to think of something if you can't remember it. Okay, thanks for watching. As always, I am your student success coach, and I'm always available to meet with you one-on-one to help you make a study plan. So click on the Calendly link in the description box if you would like to schedule an appointment with me. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.